Happy to see you all, and my name is Elżbieta Sikora. I'm a composer from Poland and France, having both countries now. And thank you for inviting me for these courses. And also I must say that I am very happy that I am again in Lviv, because this is my birthday place. So I was born there in, you will not remember of course, 1943, yeah? It was during the war. And of course I spent only 3 months there, so I don't remember anything of this time of the war. But I came back already once. If my memory is good, it was in 2010 or 11 for the festival Contrasty. And also I was there once with my mother when I was 15, so I had other preoccupation, not really composition at that time. And so it's about Lviv. And now I choose to speak to you about something which was my big problem when I started to compose music with electronic and live instruments. As you maybe know, I don't know if you ever know that I was first sound engineer. So I finished the study of sound engineering in Poland. And by a big chance, it happened that I find myself in Paris in '68. And then I started to learn the electronic music composition with Pierre Schaeffer. It was the very, very heroic period in the music, very avant-garde period. And it was really a start of my compositional career. And I was really excited about all these new sounds you can make with anything. So recording sounds, transforming them, and so on. So I was really inside of that. And of course, being sound engineer helped me because I could easily cope with machines and cut tape and so on and so on. So after that I composed mostly electronic music, but I found myself that it's maybe useful to go back to the school, to the Warsaw Academy of Music, and study classical composition. So I come back to Warsaw and I studied again in the same school, so I know very well this building. With Tadeusz Bert and Zbigniew Brudziński, instrumental composition. And since then, I'm always combining these two media, treating them as the same. I mean, for me, music, electronic music or instrumental music, I make not a big difference. Of course, you can point to some differences, but it's not the theme of this evening. So after having composed many of electroacoustic music, in '81, when I finished my piece called La Tête d'Orphée, Orpheus Head, #1 for jazz tape, with all these analog at the time devices like Moog and others, I just said to myself that I finish one period in my life in music, because I cannot do any more only electronic, because it was always the same sound coming. Also the devices were the same, there was no computer at the time. So I said, I'm tired of that. So I would like to combine the instrument, live normal instrument, like flute and others, with electronic part. And it happened that I was invited to IRCAM in Paris. IRCAM is a very famous, center. It was for me like, having touched God by foot, I was very happy, of course, to compose a new piece, instrument and electronic. And at that time, computers were big, like this, thing behind you. And the composers had to learn how to program. So we tried to learn Pascal language, Lisp, I don't know which one. I was not very good in it, really not very good. and to make you laugh maybe on the beginning. Once we have been many of us, like 10 students and composers already. Gerard Grise was with me, Philippe Manuri, if you know this name, Horacio Radulescu and others. And everybody wrote the program, with all these points and so, and X and I don't know what. And we wait all the night because the computers has to calculate that. And at the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, in every screen, in all ear come, it was written, Sikora, sounds come. So everybody was, ha ha ha, what it will be, and it was like a big So I was so unhappy because I forgot one point in the program, and so the computer didn't understand what I wanted. So I was really very much unhappy about that, and I asked Ilkam to make me a small studio with a Buchglas synthesizer and some recorder, and everything all together. And also I use computers with the help of everybody, which I can catch in Ilkam. I have an assistant also. But it's hard for a composer to work with an assistant, because you have to be alone time to time. And with this new technology, sometimes now I consider that I need some help, as you can see, even for the presentation. The technology went so quickly forward that I am a little bit lost. I can work in the studio and somebody will show me how the system operates. In 2 days I can stay alone, but it's above my capacity now, but I'm still composing electronic music. So when I started to write this music for flute, at that time flute was my favorite instrument, and electronic and tape, because at that time it was on tape still, the problem was how to make these two materials to cooperate. One is live and another one is stocked on the fixed tape and cannot move. I was very naive at the time, and I make a piece which was 20 minutes long without any interruption. It was only one start for the tape, and the flutist has to cope with that. So fortunately I thought about making a break in 10 minutes time, so he or she can just say, okay, I made 10 minutes, it was all right, so I can start another 10 minutes, but it's much too long. And many composers at that time used the system which was the system of clicks. The performer has a click in the ear, which was like metronome, which allowed him or she to be in the time with the tape. But I hate this. I don't like the clicks, because it's make also the soloist to be not free, because he has to obey to these rhythms with always the same. So I said, what I'm going to do? So I try to make like in opera, to compose the electronic part, which is fixed, but which allows the soloist to adapt his play to this fixed type. It makes that you feel that the tape part is free. It's an illusion I try to create, of course, because it's not true. And I will try to show you a little bit how it works. It's very empiric, it's not scientific at all, it's not technical, it's really kind of personal way of coping with these two materials, one with fixed and another one with free. And when you write a solo music, for example, you know that soloist can do this piece 1 minute longer or 1 minute shorter. It will be always the same piece. But try, for example, when you have two instruments or more on quartet, on symphony, to change something in between in the time. You cannot do it because the piece will collapse. Imagine the Beethoven quartet and you say to the artist to play a little bit slower than others. It's not possible, of course, because it will not make the same music. But when you have a concerto, for example, solo instrument and orchestra, or when you have opera, you can observe, but very often the conductor can wait for the soloist, and sometimes also the soloist is adapting himself to the orchestra. And in opera it's the same problem. So it was my idea to make a little bit like that. So how it works? I would like just to, another example. For example, when sometimes you have these games in the newspapers, when you did children books, when you have two pictures, almost the same, but in one they are removing some details, and they're asking you to find what is removed. On the first look you cannot see it, of course, but you think that it's the same picture. So this illusion can remain, when you change a small element in music in the time. It's still the same music, but it's not really the same. So, the electronic parts in my pieces are always composed of sequences which are like a long and a little bit complex part, which are not changing very much, and from the sound which can become a signals for the performer to know where he or she is. So it's always the same method. So sometimes these long parts are free, and these short elements are signals that the performer has to say to himself, I'm here, so I have to go slower or go quicker to be after that in the right time. So I'm proposing to you to hear first an only electronic part of the first movement of the piece called Lisboa, which is a piece for saxophone and electronic and tape part, which I composed if my memory is good, in '98, and which was performed many times in many countries. And the performer for whom I wrote this piece, Daniel Kinsey, is a French saxophonist, played the piece almost more than 100 times. He could sing it, and it was very fun of the piece, and I was happy with his performance and so. But you will hear more than his example of that. So to illustrate all what I said before, I propose we are going to hear this Lisboa tape alone of this first movement. It's only 2 minutes of this piece. And one moment just before. And I'm very often using in my electronic music the sounds which came from the reality. I mean, for this piece, Lisboa, I went to Lisboa, to the town, and I recorded many times many sounds of the city, like a market, like the streets, like people speaking, like a cafe. And this piece is called Lisboa Tramway 28, because I don't know if you know this town of Lisboa, which is a fantastic town, it's sounding very well. It's a tramway, number 28, which makes all the round trip around the city. And it's very old tramway which breaks, which make a lot of sound. So I was fascinated by this tramway, and I recorded it many times. And I use the sounds in this piece, but in the first movement I used only the sounds from the cafe. Why? Because the piece was initially composed, dedicated to the Portuguese poet Fernando Pessoa, who lived in Lisboa and who wrote all these poems and also books in the Café Brasileira. Now we have monument showing Pessoa sitting there and writing. So I went to this cafe. I tried to ask people if they know who Pessoa was. And I found a man who had a very nice voice. He was American. American always has nice voices. So I said, oh, this man has to know something. And I asked him a question about Lisboa, and I introduced the sound of this cafe and this man speaking. So you will hear the reality also mixed with other electronic sounds. So let's hear to it. Just electronic part. So I think everybody was singing already the saxophone part in this. So, and now we are going to hear, you're on the first page? Yes. Yes. But the yellow color is not coming so well, but anyway. I show you that it's my handwriting because no publisher has published it. It was played all over the world, but no one was like to publish the piece. And yeah, maybe it's that. Okay, this one. Yes. So I'm very lazy. So I just put the sign of the beginning of the tape part here. So somebody who is operating the electronic part has to start there. It's 0, 0. So it's the first movement starts there. After I give some indication with the seconds. It's just for orientation. But normal way every performer plays after without saying any seconds. So you will see the first. I will show you the performer which was live, no CD recording, concerting also with the Polish saxophonist, and the start comes here, so earlier and not here. So you will see the difference, and you will follow the yellow color compared to the point I'm trying to suggest that it's something happening in the tape part. So some performers are in front of it or in the same time. They are very good, these two. And this yellow, which is no one here, but you cannot see it, is a little bit late. We can go to the next maybe page first, and we come back to this one. No? Yes. But the same later, this yellow is here, you have to believe me. So the yellow is always not in a good place, but it really sounds like the same piece. So the electronic part is just signed like that, and the performer has to see that something will happen here, and it's in 20 seconds, but it's around 20 seconds. It's why I put the signs like that. And so we start just with the first one. You will consider yourself a little bit where the performance is compared to the tape part.
Okay, so I
You
move
make
back
for
to
the
the
first,
page.
yes, please.
Proszę. Jest.
The first page, yes, and
CD1.
CD1 and first. Okay, and you go to the 120 something. The introduction is saxophone alone, but we are not going to hear it. We are just going to hear it just from the fragment when the tape part comes to the piece. It's about 1 minute 20, something like that. Yes. So this was this live performance by saxophonist Gustav in Warsaw. So he was a little bit slow, a little bit late, and he finished much later than normal way. But it's, for me it was okay. I'm not so, exact singer, so I think it's his interpretation, and Of course, if he is going to play it another time, he will do it another thing and not always the same. And now we are going to listen the same fragment by an American player, and you will see he's much more exact and much more disciplined, and he's really exactly where it has to be. So this number 2 in the no, it's at the end. Yes, number 2 and also 120 something. So you will compare this, and you will tell me after if you hear the same piece or not, if the difference is really big or not, because in fact this is the normal way, the green color. The style of playing is different. So you can see that he was much more in the time, and you can also, when you look at the score, you can see when he's waiting a little bit and accelerating a little bit to be with the tape. It's a way of doing. I'm not very happy with that either, because I think it's much nicer to just see that the interpreter is just free. So, but it's a very good example of how somebody can do. And now we are going to go past this with this Kenji, Daniel Kenji, playing it live. So no on CD, which is here, but playing live at the first performance in Paris. So this will be the blue color, if I remember. So you will see if he was rehearsing, of course, a lot of time, but it's the first time he was playing it in the concert. So he allows himself to some freedom. So this will be 3, yes, 3, and also 123. So, and now we did the last time, because you know by heart now this small fragment. It's the CD which we make with Daniel Kenzie, and so it was, you know, this elaboration at the studio, so we have time to synchronization, and he can adapt much more. And you will see that even in this case, when all freedom is given and also all time to make it well, it's some differences also. So this is the Daniel Kenzie, this time with in the studio, so prepared for the CD. So ready? Yes. Also the one